Hi, I'm Verloof, and this video today will focus on how to use all the relevant features of Moto to create your own projects on the Carvera CNC machine. I will take a little woodwork project from concept to reality. So I will start with some sketches, create a 3D model, import that into Moto to program, and then finally cut the parts on the Carvera. Finish it and assemble. Now I tried to design something that incorporates all the features that the software has to offer. So the project has included 3-axis milling, relief milling, double-sided milling, 4th-axis milling, and laser engraving. At the end of the day, everything fits together to create a little personalized storage box. Now we are still pushing on Moto as a great alternative to our CAM software. Once that is launched, obviously our main focus will be Carvera CAM. But at the moment, we have good communications with the developer of Moto. He is actively developing and updating the software. So we do see that Moto will always be part of the Carvera family. Our developers are still hard at work on the Carvera CAM, but you could expect a beta release around June this year. So let me not waste any more time and get straight into this project. So here I'll just start looking at materials that I have, just to plan out what I will be making, what wood I will be using, and what size my final product will be. So I'm using this piece of birch and a piece of walnut to create this piece. I'll just draw some sketches just to plan out what I'll be making, then I'll bring it into my 3D modeling software to create our model. Here I'll just take a few more measurements just of the magnets that I'll be putting into the lid and the base, and also do some general measurement of jewelry that I'm planning to put into this box. So then next step is I'll take these sketches into my modeling software. I'll plan this out from the bottom, so I'll start with the bottom box and then we'll go over to the lid, and then also include a little ring holder in the middle, and then also add the text for the engraving at the end. Lastly, I will just export all these parts as an STL file. So I'll export all the parts separately. There's the lid and the base and the ring holder, ring knob, and then also the text. So we'll just start by just checking if we've got the correct version. So you just go here, I'm on the correct 3.9. Sometimes if it's not updated, it's gonna give you an error here just to press shift and then refresh. That updates the workspace into the latest version. So we'll set up the stock in this tab over here. So we've already measured it. It's 170 by 70 deep and 22 mil high. The stock is about 21 on the one side and then 20 on the other side, so I just went a little bit more than that, so just to make sure that I clear the whole face. So we'll import our base, our box bottom, and here everything, the Z anchor is set to bottom, so you can check here if it's in the middle, it will sit in the middle of the stock, but we wanted to cut through the bottom. And then we'll put some tabs over there and we can do that here. So you just select the size of your tab over here, and then we'll add them. Make them a bit smaller here. Let's call this 5. There. And then that is set up, tabs is done, stock is done. If you're doing the 4th axis, then you go to indexed, but we're not doing the 4th axis now. We'll do that for the pin that goes in here. We'll do a little 4th axis milling operation on that. Output tool initiation, that's yes. And the reference is from the top of objects, because we're Z0ing on the top of that material. Okay, so now we go to our operations. To add that, you just go to this plus sign. For this operation, we'll just do a roughing operation. Now this is basically, there's no angle parts on this, so I can achieve this whole part by just doing a roughing pass. We're not going to leave any stock on this because we wanted to cut to the faces that we have. So that's also why we say clear faces. That will then cut to that depth, to that depth, to that depth. And also these where the magnets go. We'll select our tool, which would be our 1/8 of an inch 25mm. That's the longer one. We're going to keep the RPMs at 12,000, feed rate 800, plunge rate 300, step down 2mm per pass. If you're using the tooling board, you can go to 3, maybe 4, but this is a very hard wood, so we will use 2mm for that. Step over, so this is the fraction of that bit, so anything around 0.5, like half of the tip of the bit size. We're not going to leave any stock. We're not going to clear any voids, clear faces, yes. So that, I'll show you the difference between that. So if I hit S on my keyboard, you can see that I didn't clear this top face over here. And if you look at this bottom line over there, that's the bottom of our pass, but then it's ending there. So I'll go back to A. If I say clear the top, hit S, then you'll see it added an extra pass to the top here just to clear that top piece. So that's another 2mm. So I'll hit A again, and then if I say clear faces, hit S, then you can see it added another pass to the bottom here where it cuts to that face. It also won't leave, so it'll also not leave any material here. It'll cut to the bottom of that face where that magnet will go. You can see that it leaves the tabs. So on our limits, we wanted to cut a little bit through the material. So this is where you set it by just holding your cursor on this on command. It gives you a little description, so it extends the cutout pass into the workspace unit. So we want to cut it through. 1 mill's a little bit too much. A little bit too much. I'll say 0.5. Hit S again. That reprograms it. And then let's animate this. Let's see what happens. I'll speed this up a bit. Inside pocket, that pocket, and then it just runs down and down. There's our little lip for our lid. It's going to end up with that hole there, and then cutting. You can see our tabs sitting over there. So this seems good to me. Hit S again. I'll go start, and I'll export this. Oops. I'll export this. Download this file. Box bottom. And then we will send that to the machine. I've got my iPad linked to the machine, so if the size are not too big, you can I just easily send this file to that iPad, and then I just accept it on that pad. And it's a quite small file, so that is upload. Upload is completed. Hit finish on that, and then we'll set up the machine. Okay, to set up the box lid, first thing that we'll do is we'll just import our file. Now we've saved this here as box lid inner. So we'll first do this side so we can actually have a flip of the material, and then we do the opposite side. So let's just first set up the stock. Now I've already measured it. The width is exactly 198. Now I'm not too worried about the height because we are doing a flip on the y-axis, so I'm not too worried about the height. So I'll just enable the stock here, and then we've already set it, it's already set to top. You can do it like this as well, that's also an option, but then you have to cut through the material now, but I still want this flat surface to work with if we're doing our flip on the opposite sides. And I'm only going to be cutting on the inside without the tabs because we're going to cut the tabs on the opposite side. So we'll say we'll set our limits to top. So we just want to finish the inside of this part, and then we'll do the outside cut when we do the flip. So we don't need any tabs. Stock, limits, we don't have to cut through anything. Output, tool initiation, origin, top, because we are Z0ing on top of the material. Now here we'll go to our roughing operation, and then over here we select our tool. If you want to change the tool, if you want to edit the tool, you just go to this function over here to change the tool. Just make sure our RPMs, feed rate, plunge rate's correct. Step down, we're going to go 1 millimeter. Step over 0.6, around about 0.5 is okay. We're not going to leave any stock because this is basically the finishing pass on this side. We don't have to clear any voids, but we do want to clear the faces, which is this face, so it cuts actually to that face. Then we don't have to clear the top because my material is already leveled, and then I'll do the inside only because we're gonna do the outside cut on the flip part of it. So let's just hit S on our keyboard, and then we look at the results, and that's exactly what we want. There is your origin. So in my case, anchor point 1 is going to sit over here, and when we do the opposite side, I can basically just flip this board, and then it's in the center of this material. So that distance and that distance is already set because our model snaps to the center of your stock. So if that's all set up, we just go to export. We'll download this lid, and then I'll send this to my tablet. Accept. We'll let that upload, and then we're going to run it on the machine. Okay, so this is where we ended my last operation. So I'll just go back and delete this roughing. And now we're just gonna set this back now to the other side. So we're gonna go to output, limits, no, origin. The anchor should be at the bottom. But then we're also gonna flip this part. So we're gonna go here, we're gonna rotate this 180. And that's still in the exact same position. So what we did on the machine is we just flipped this side over and that side over this way. So it's still the correct orientation. It's inside that stock material. And then we still have our origin at the top because we're still gonna Z0 on the top of the material here. So we first go to our roughing operation. And now everything here is already set up. We're gonna clear the faces, the inside only, but we are clearing the top. So let's just hit S on this and see what happens. So it clears that whole part of the top out. Leave stock. We have to say here, we're gonna say, let's say 1 mil, and then before we do it again, so we're gonna cut the outside as well, but before we do that we're gonna add some tabs. So I'll just add a tab. This one tab's a little bit big. Height, I'll just call the height 3, and then we'll put a tab here, 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 and here. Let's hit S on the keyboard. Let's see what happens. So it'll run down, 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 down. Step over. I'm keeping quite low because the wood is very hard. So my step down is at 1 mil. Maybe I can go 1.5. And that's the roughing operation. Oh, that looks a bit better. You can see here it clearly leaves us little tabs. Now we already cut the bottom, so hopefully that lines up perfectly. And then we're gonna do a contour cut. That's the V-bit we're using. Spindles, correct, feed is fine. Step over 0.05. Let's just hit S to see what happens here. Now it's going to cut on the x-axis, so it's going to go like this. You can set that over here. This is what axis it's, you know, leave stock 0. We don't need it to cut all the way down to here. So I'm going to say inside only, and then it's going to stop on that line. Yeah, that's better. I just need this finishing to do the top. Yeah, that looks good to me. So if I take off the facing operation and the roughing operation, then that should be our finish. That looks pretty good. I just want to show you something here. If I say step over, so this is actually taking the fraction tool of the shaft size and not the tip size, because if it's a 0.4, let's just look at the tool here. My V-bit, the tip is 0.1. So if I go 0.05 of 0.1, then it's going to be a way too large file. So of that 0.1, we're going to go step over is 0.5. Let's see what happens then. You see it's taking 0.5 of the shaft of the diameter. So I think this is something that the creator of the software is busy sorting out. So we'll keep that at 0.05. 0.05 is, that's it. Okay, and then we're gonna select everything. Let's check what is this. This is just the contour line at the bottom, and this is the contour on that X cut. So I'm pretty happy with that. Just hit S. That's everything combined. Select everything here, and then we're gonna export this and send it to the machine. For this cut, I had a clog in the vacuum tube and the dustbin filled up very quickly. That's why it wasn't really effective. So here I just glued in the opposite side magnets. I have to admit that one of these magnets orientation was in the correct way. So if you're ever thinking of replicating this, make sure that the orientation of your magnets is the correct way. Otherwise it's just going to push the lid off the box. Okay, so to start setting up your Kirimoto 4th axis job, first thing to do is to import the file. We'll go grab that here ring knob. So that is the model that we've created already. First thing to make sure is that our stock is the correct size. So here I've already measured the width of my stock. The width of my stock is not really relevant because my stock is quite wide. Yeah, so the stock is quite wide, so I'll just use something in width here that's relevant to the model. My depth is 30 and then our height is 20 mils. So that's the height of the stock. Now I'm setting this up like I will set up the stock in the machine so that that measurement speaks to the part mounted in the 4th axis. Now if you go to stock and you have to go to index milling, you'll see that the model will snap to the center of the x-axis. And we'll add some tabs. For now it's still a manual placement of the tabs. We've been speaking to the developer and he is creating a function that the tabs actually snaps to the center axis of the 4th axis. So now the tabs have been added. Next will be the output tool initiation, the origin. You don't have to set anything here because the origin needs to be set to the center of the model. We don't select the origin top because the origin needs to be center of the axis. The way that we will mill this will be a roughing pass on this side, then a rotation, then we'll do the roughing on the opposite side, then we'll rotate it again, and then we'll commence with the finishing pass. So to see if you've got the right version of Kirimoto, only the latest version has got this lathe option. So you go to version and then update your software. Just make sure that you're using 3.9. If you need to refresh, you can just hold shift and then hit refresh and it'll update to the latest version. So the lathe option we'll do as a final pass. We'll start off with a roughing operation on this side. Then we'll do an index, like a rotation of the part, 180 degrees. Then a roughing on the opposite side. And then we'll index that again. And then the lathe pass. In some cases, you'll do 2 lathe passes. Maybe with a 1/8 inch bit and then the final pass with maybe a V bit. That is up to you, depends on your part. If on our roughing we will leave 1 millimeter and that will be fine, just to use one lathe option to remove that. Just keep in mind that the lathe option at this moment only has 1 single pass. So if you wanted to do a roughing lathe, you're still going to have to do an index lathe to remove the bulk of the material. Another thing that I've recently found out is you can drag this little timer to cordon off and enable and disable operations. You can also click Control and click on the operation to deactivate and activate them. So we'll start with the roughing on this side. We'll use the 8-inch bit. Spindle RPMs 10,000. Speed rate feed. Step down we'll just use 2mm. That's fine. Step over is the fraction of the tool that you're using. So it's half of the 1/8 of an inch. So that's fine for step over. And we'll leave stock 1mm so we can lay that off at the end. Now here we got a few options. I'll show you what these options do. If I hit S now, you can see it only borders the part. So what we need to do is we need to mold this material to the outside of the part and also to the top of the part. Now to clear the top, we'll just tick this box. So let's hit S again. Now you can see it adds another pass to the top of this. And now to clear the whole area stock around the part, you go back to roughing and you say clear stock. It is, and that's the roughing operation. You can see it doesn't cut the tabs. Everything seems fine. Everything works. Basically, we're going to do the exact same operation on the opposite side. So we'll do the index here. We'll rotate the part 180 degrees. Then we'll do a roughing operation, which is exactly the same as the first one. So I'll just unclick this, clear faces. If you have some parts that has maybe like a pocket or a recess, you can hit clear faces and it will cut to that specific face instead of leaving stock there. So it's a cool faces, clear voids, and like depending on your model. If you only want to mold the inside, you can use this function, but I don't really know where you'll need it on the 4th axis. Yeah, not sure where you will use that. So you just make sure everything here lines up and hit S, and then the other side is completed. After that, we'll add another index. For this model, it doesn't really matter because it's cylindrical. But if you have a part which is face specific, you're just gonna have to rotate it back. So the last thing that we'll do will be the lathe option. So let's take away, I'll hit Control, click, click, click. And then I'll do the lathe option now. So we are using the V bit and we are converting the Y axis to A axis. And then our spindle RPMs is at 10,000. Step over. And we don't have to leave any stock here, so we'll just hit S on that. And that seems pretty good to me. You can see it cuts a little further away here. Well, actually it cuts to the tab, which is fine. If I'm worried about stock that sits over here, I can just stop the last part of this operation before it gets there. So we'll hit A again. We'll activate all of these and I hit S, and there is your entire job with roughing and finishing. So we're happy with that. So we'll start, export, download, and send that to the machine. The sound of this operation had me a little bit worried. You can hear on the machine that it was cutting a little bit too fast and the cut depth was a little bit too deep. So I had a bit break here, and what I did to solve that is just to slow down the feed speed of the machine and also used a shorter bit. So what we'll start off with here is to import the model of the name that we're going to laser engrave. So the stock, what we'll do is to set the stock to the material that I'll be engraving this on, just to center it on that material. The lid is 50, 100. So that is the size of the material that I'm using. All that I'm going to do is mount this in anchor point 1, and the logo or the name will be in the center of that model. You can also scale it to the right size or a different size. I think we'll go a little bit larger here. I'll just modify this think that's the one. Okay, so here we will go to laser on. So this is just the code to enable the laser, to switch it on. And then we'll set it at 100% power. Then we will go to outline, because we just want to use the outline of this text. So we'll select the tool to be the laser. And you don't have to set any RPMs. And the feed rate and the plunge rate, you can modify that if you want to. We don't have to mess around with any of these functions because we don't need them for the laser operation. And then we'll finally just switch the laser off at the end of it. And then you can see we just need the outline border of it. So we just need one line, so I can just change the pass to one. There is our outline. What we'll do is just export this, download that, and send it to the machine, and let's go. And there you have it. My personal feedback about this project is just to take it easy when running jobs for the first time. You can always increase the feed rates and speeds and the cut depths at the later stage, rather than me just breaking bits. Overall, I think the wood looks really great, and I might spend some more time sanding just to get a nice smooth final product. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe to see some more. If you have any questions or comments, post that down below. Links to our socials in the video description. We have a very active Discord server, so you could join us on there as well. Thanks for watching. Cheers.